I've got to tell you something that still sends a shiver down my spine when I think about it. Imagine walking into a place you've called home for years, only to hear your name whispered in a way that makes your blood run cold, like you're already a ghost. That's what happened to me, and it's why I'm sharing this with you. If you've ever felt unseen, especially after giving your all to something or someone for years, you need to hear this. It's not just my story. It's a warning, a lesson, and maybe even a way out of that shadows you might be stuck in. My name's Evelyn, and for nearly 20 years, I was the heartbeat of a little antique bookstore called Thornwood Pages. It wasn't just a job, it was my sanctuary, my pride. I knew every creaky floorboard, every dusty spine, every customer's quirks. I'd spent countless late nights restoring old books, chasing rare editions, and turning that place into a haven for book lovers. I thought my loyalty had built something unshakable. But then came the day I realized I might as well have been a phantom haunting those shelves. It started innocently enough, or so I thought. The shop had been quieter lately, the kind of quiet that gnaws at you. I'd been working on a special project, tracking down a rare first edition of The Shadowed Path, a Gothic novel from the 1800s that our oldest customer, Mrs. Hargrove, had been dreaming of for years. I'd finally found it, negotiated with a collector halfway across the country, and spent weeks planning a little event to unveil it. I pictured her frail hands trembling with joy as I handed it to her. That morning, I walked in, my chest buzzing with excitement, ready to set everything up. But as I passed the back room, I heard voices, low, secretive, like they didn't want the walls to hear. I recognized Jasper, the owner's son, who'd started helping out a few months back. He was barely 25, all sharp edges and ambition, the kind of guy who'd rather scroll his phone than touch a book. The other voice was his father, Mr. Thornwood, my boss since I was 32. Evelyn's been here forever, Jasper was saying, his tone clipped. She's stuck in the past. We need someone new for this, someone who gets the digital age. I froze, my hand on the doorframe. My heart thudded, so loud I thought they'd hear it. She's reliable, Jasper, Mr. Thornwood replied, but his voice lacked conviction. She knows this place inside out. Reliable doesn't sell books anymore, Dad. That event she's planning? It's quaint, but it's not enough. I say we let Mia handle it, give it a modern twist, live stream it, get some buzz.
Mia.
The new hire. She'd been with us for 3 months, a bubbly 20-something who'd once asked me how to use the card catalog, like it was some ancient relic. And now they wanted her to take my project? My moment? I slipped away before they noticed me, my legs shaky, my mind spinning. I hid behind the counter, pretending to sort receipts, but all I could hear was that word echoing. Reliable. Like I was a piece of furniture, not a person. After all those years, nights I'd skipped dinners, holidays I'd worked, the time I'd stayed late to fix a flooded basement, I was just reliable? The rest of the day blurred past. I watched Jasper and Mia huddle by the register, laughing over something on her phone. I caught snippets, hashtags, influencers, words that felt foreign in my world of ink and paper. When I asked Jasper about the event, he brushed me off. Don't worry, Evelyn. We've got it covered. That night, I sat in my tiny apartment, staring at the walls lined with books I'd rescued from the shop's discard pile. I'd always thought loyalty was a currency. Give enough, and it'd pay off. But now I saw it differently. Maybe I'd been pouring it into a well that had gone dry, and I'd been too blind to notice. Hey, if this is hitting home for you, or if you just want to see where this crazy ride takes me, consider subscribing to our channel. It's growing bigger and faster every day, and I'd love for you to be part of it. Just this once, I promise. No more nudges after this. The next morning, I went back, determined to talk to Mr. Thornwood. I rehearsed my words, calm, professional, a plea to be seen. But as I stepped inside, something felt off. The air was thick, the kind of stillness you feel before a storm. I found Mia behind the counter, setting up a camera tripod. My tripod, the one I'd bought for the shop years ago. Morning, Evelyn, she chirped, not looking up. Big day today. Big day. I echoed, my voice tighter than I meant it to be. Yeah, the event. Jasper's idea. live streaming the reveal. Isn't it cool? I stared at her, then at the little table where my carefully wrapped first edition sat, now surrounded by ring lights and a sign that read, Thornwood Pages goes live. My project, my book, my moment, and I hadn't even been told. Before I could respond, Jasper breezed in. Evelyn, good you're here. Can you grab some extra chairs from the back? We're expecting a crowd. A crowd. For my event that they'd taken. I nodded numbly and shuffled to the storage room. But as I dragged out the chairs, something snapped inside me. I stopped, hands trembling, and leaned against the wall. That's when I heard it, a faint whisper, like the rustle of pages, though no one was there. It wasn't words, just a feeling, cold and urgent, wrapping around me. You're fading. I don't know if it was my imagination or the shop itself, those old walls I'd loved so long, trying to tell me something. But in that moment, I knew I couldn't just keep going like this. I'd given everything to Thornwood Pages, and it was swallowing me whole. The question was, what was I going to do about it? I've always believed that loyalty is like a bridge. It connects you to people, to places, and in return, it holds you steady. But what happens when that bridge starts to crumble beneath your feet? That's the question I couldn't shake as I stood there in the storage room, the whisper still lingering in my ears like a cold draft. I'd spent years building that bridge at Thornwood Pages, plank by plank, with every late night, every sacrificed weekend, every moment I chose the shop over my own life. And now it felt like the whole structure was swaying, ready to collapse. I couldn't let it. Not yet. I needed to understand what was happening, to me, to the shop, to everything I thought I knew. So I did what I'd always done. I kept going. I set up the chairs, forced a smile, and watched as the event unfolded without me. Mia's live stream was a hit, of course. The shop buzzed with new faces, younger customers snapping photos, hashtagging their way through the stacks. Mrs. Hargrove, bless her, still came, her eyes lighting up when she saw the book, but even that moment felt stolen. Mia handed it to her, all smiles for the camera, while I stood in the background, a shadow in my own story. After the crowd thinned, I caught Mr. Thornwood by the register. Can we talk? I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. He nodded, though his eyes flicked to his watch. Sure, Evelyn. What's on your mind? I took a breath. I've been here a long time. I've given everything to this place. But lately, it feels like I'm being pushed aside. The event today, I planned that. I found that book. And now, it's like I don't even exist. He sighed, rubbing his temples. Evelyn, you know how much I appreciate you. But things are changing. We need to adapt, bring in new energy. Jasper thinks. Jasper's 25. I cut in, sharper than I meant to. He doesn't know this place like I do. He doesn't know the customers, the history. I do. Mr. Thornwood's face softened, but there was a distance in his eyes. Loyalty matters, Evelyn. But so does growth. Maybe it's time for you to take a step back, let the younger folks take the reins. Take a step back. The words hit like a slap. After all these years, that's what I was being asked to do. Fade into the background, become a relic like the books I loved. I didn't argue. I just nodded, mumbled something about understanding, and slipped out the back door. The whisper came again as I passed the storage room, louder this time, almost insistent. You're fading. I hurried out, my heart pounding, and drove home in a daze. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about loyalty, how I'd always seen it as a virtue, a strength. But maybe it was a trap, a way to keep me tethered to something that no longer valued me. I thought about my mother, who'd stayed in a loveless marriage for decades out of loyalty, only to be left with nothing when my father passed. I thought about friends who'd stayed in dead-end jobs, hoping for a break that never came. Was that me now? Clinging to a sinking ship, too afraid to let go? The next morning, I called in sick, something I hadn't done in years. I needed space, time to think. I wandered the city, ending up at a little cafe I used to visit before the shop consumed my life. As I sipped my coffee, I watched people come and go, young, old, all moving with purpose. And there I was, stuck like a character in a story that had forgotten its plot. That's when I saw her, an old friend, Claire, from my college days. We hadn't spoken in years, but she recognized me instantly. Evelyn, my God, it's been forever. We hugged, and soon we were catching up over lattes. Claire had always been the adventurous one, the one who took risks while I played it safe. She'd traveled, started her own business, lived a life that seemed so free. "You still at that bookstore?" she asked, and I nodded, though the pride I once felt was gone. "You don't look happy about it," she said, tilting her head. I hesitated, then spilled everything. The event, the whisper, the feeling of being erased. Claire listened, her face thoughtful. "You know," she said slowly, "loyalty's a funny thing. It's like a currency, but only if the other side values it. Otherwise, it's just debt." Her words struck a chord. "So, what do I do? Just walk away?" Claire shrugged. "Maybe. Or maybe you find a way to make them see your worth. But don't stay out of habit, Evelyn. That's not loyalty. That's fear." Fear. The word hung in the air. Was that what had kept me at Thornwood all these years? Fear of starting over, of being alone, of losing the only identity I had? I left the cafe with more questions than answers, but something had shifted inside me. I wasn't ready to give up yet, but I knew I couldn't keep going as I was. I needed to confront whatever was happening, even if it meant facing things I'd rather ignore. Back at my apartment, I sat down with a notebook and started writing. I listed everything I'd done for the shop, every sacrifice, every win. Then I listed what I'd gained and what I'd lost. The losses column was longer than I expected. Missed family gatherings, friendships that had faded, hobbies I'd abandoned. And for what? A pat on the back and a title that meant less with each passing day. As I wrote, I felt that whisper again. Not in my ears, but in my mind. "You're fading." But this time, it didn't scare me. It angered me. I wasn't going to fade. Not without a fight. The next day, I went back to the shop, but with a new resolve. I wasn't going to beg for recognition. I was going to demand it. I cornered Jasper in the back office, where he was hunched over his laptop. "Jasper, we need to talk." He looked up, surprised. Sure. "What's up?" "I want to be part of the changes here. I've got ideas. Ways to blend the old with the new. But I need a seat at the table, not just setting up chairs." He blinked, clearly taken aback. "Evelyn, I didn't realize you were interested in that side of things." "Of course I am. This place is my life. But if you don't want my input, maybe it's time I look elsewhere." The words slipped out before I could stop them, but as soon as I said them, I knew they were true. I couldn't stay if I was just a ghost in the machine. Jasper's face tightened. "Look, I'll talk to Dad. Maybe we can find a role for you in the new direction." A role. Not leadership, not partnership, just a role. It wasn't enough, but it was a start. I nodded, but inside, I was already planning my next move. That evening, as I locked up, I heard the whisper again, softer this time, almost approving. "You're waking up." I smiled to myself. Maybe I was. But the real test was yet to come. Because loyalty, I was learning, isn't just about staying, it's about knowing when to fight and when to walk away. And I had a feeling that decision was closer than I thought. I've always believed life sends you signs, little hints, whispers in the quiet, moments that feel like the universe is nudging you towards something bigger. For years, I ignored those signs at Thornwood Pages, thinking loyalty would be enough to secure my place. But now, with that strange whisper still lingering in my ears, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had to listen. This wasn't just about fighting for my spot anymore, it was about figuring out what that spot really meant and whether it was worth the fight. After my tense chat with Jasper, I drifted through the next few days in a haze. He'd promised to find a role for me, but nothing changed. I was still stacking books on shelves, still watching Mia and Jasper plot the shop's future over their laptops, leaving me out of every whispered plan. Whenever I tried to join in, they'd flash polite smiles and steer the conversation elsewhere, like I was an outsider in the place I'd helped build. But I wasn't done yet. Claire's words kept circling in my mind. Loyalty's a currency, but only if the other side values it. Maybe it was time to make them see its worth, or find a way to use it for myself. One rainy afternoon, with the shop nearly empty, I decided to act. I strode into Mr. Thornwood's office, where he sat buried in a pile of invoices, looking more exhausted than I'd ever seen him. "Mr. Thornwood," I said, keeping my voice firm, "I have an idea. Something that could breathe new life into the shop without losing what makes it special." He glanced up, eyebrows raised. "Oh, what's that, Evelyn?" I took a deep breath. "A monthly book club, but not a typical one. We'd focus on rare, forgotten books, ones with history that tie into the shop's legacy. I could curate them, lead the discussions, and even use some of our older stock. It'd honor the past while bringing in new faces." His expression softened, a spark of curiosity flickering. "That sounds interesting. But Jasper's all about digital stuff, podcasts, online sales. He says that's the future." "I know," I replied, leaning in. "And I'm not against that. We can do both. Let me try this alongside Jasper's plans. If it flops, fine. But give me a shot to show what I can do." He paused, then nodded slowly. "All right, Evelyn. Let's see what you've got. You've earned that much." I walked out feeling lighter, like I'd finally carved out a small space to stand in. But as I passed the storage room, that whisper crept back. "Look deeper." I froze, hand on the doorframe, a shiver running through me. Look deeper? What was that supposed to mean? I brushed it off and got back to work, but the word stuck with me, nagging like an unsolved puzzle. A few days later, I was setting up for the first book club meeting. I'd picked a rare copy of The Secret Garden, one of my favorites, and poured hours into preparing notes, brewing tea, and arranging chairs in a cozy circle. I'd even persuaded Mrs. Hargrove to come, her eyes bright with anticipation. But as the start time ticked closer, the shop stayed silent. No one showed, not even Mia or Jasper, who'd sworn they'd stop by. I sat there, surrounded by empty seats, the quiet pressing down on me. Mrs. Hargrove gave my hand a gentle pat. "Maybe next time, dear," she said, her tone soft but tinged with pity. I smiled back, but inside, I was furious. Was this how it'd be? Undermined before I could even start? That night, I cornered Jasper. "You said you'd support this. Where were you?" He shrugged, avoiding my gaze. "Got tied up. Sorry, Evelyn. Maybe it's just not what people want." I wanted to yell, to demand he stop shutting me out. Instead, I turned and stormed off, fists tight. As I passed the storage room, the whisper hit again, sharper this time. "Look deeper." I stopped, staring at the door. Something about it felt different, like it was pulling me in. On a whim, I pushed it open and stepped inside. The room was dim, packed with boxes and old furniture, dust hanging thick in the air. I'd been here countless times, but tonight it felt alive. I moved slowly, eyes scanning the shelves, unsure what I was searching for. Then I saw it, a faint outline on the back wall, hidden behind a stack of crates. I shoved them aside, heart pounding, and there it was, a small, ancient door, its wood weathered, a rusted keyhole staring back at me. I blinked, breathless. How had I missed this? I tried the handle locked. I rummaged through the room, checking drawers and boxes, but found no key. Frustration flared. Another wall in my way. But as I turned to go, something caught my eye, a glint on the floor. I bent down and brushed aside a pile of old receipts, revealing a small, ornate key. My hand shook as I picked it up and slid it into the lock. It clicked softly. I pushed the door open, and a cold breeze swept out, smelling of aged paper and something sharper. Ink, maybe, or blood. The room beyond was dark, but as my vision cleared, I saw shelves of books, their spines cracked and faded. A desk sat in the middle, covered in papers and an old ledger. I stepped in, pulse racing. This wasn't just storage, it was a secret archive, a buried piece of the shop's past. I grabbed the ledger, its pages brittle, and opened it. The handwriting was graceful, dated decades back, sales, purchases, And something more. My eyes snagged on a name. Evelyn Harlow. My name. But that was impossible. I'd only been here 20 years, and these entries were from the 1940s. I read on, heart in my throat. Evelyn Harlow, senior clerk, dismissed for insubordination. Dismissed? The story unfolded in fragments. This other Evelyn had worked here during World War II, when the shop was faltering. She'd pushed for change, new ideas, but the owner, Mr. Thornwood's grandfather, had sacked her for it. A chill settled over me. Was this why the whisper guided me here? To show me I was walking the same path. I kept digging, finding letters, receipts, even a faded photo of a woman who could have been my twin. Same sharp eyes, same stubborn jaw. Evelyn Harlow, erased from the shop's history. Then I found it, a sealed letter tucked in the ledger. I broke the wax, hands trembling, and read. To whom it may concern. If you found this, you're likely at a crossroads, as I was. Loyalty is a chain, not a crown. Break it, or it will break you. Yours, Evelyn Harlow. I stared, mind spinning. It felt like she'd written it for me, a message across time. But how? The whisper returned, soft and close. Now you see. I whirled around, but the room was empty. My skin prickled. This wasn't chance, it was a warning. I locked the door behind me and left, but the discovery clung to me like a shadow. I'd found something risky, something that could either lift me up or tear it all down. That night, I couldn't sleep. Loyalty is a chain, not a crown. Was I chained to a place that didn't care, repeating her mistakes? I wasn't ready to let go yet. There was more to learn, more to face. And whatever came next, I knew it'd change everything. I used to think loyalty was a promise, a value made to someone or something, and in return, it gave you a place to belong. But after finding Evelyn Harlow's letter in that hidden room, I wasn't so sure. Her words, loyalty is a chain, not a crown, kept circling in my mind, heavy and sharp, like a warning I'd been too stubborn to hear. That other Evelyn, a woman who'd walked my path decades ago, had been erased for daring to push back. Was I next? Or could I break the chain before it pulled me under? The discovery of the hidden archive had shaken me, but it also lit a fire. I wasn't just fighting for my place at Thornwood Pages anymore. I was fighting for myself, for the life I'd let slip away while pouring everything into a shop that barely noticed. The whisper, that strange, eerie voice, felt less like a threat now and more like a guide, urging me to act. But act how? I couldn't just walk away, not yet. I needed a plan, a way to prove my worth or carve out something new. The next morning, I went back to the shop with a ledger and Evelyn Harlow's letter tucked in my bag. I hadn't told anyone about the hidden room, not even Claire. It felt too fragile, too personal, like a secret the shop itself had entrusted to me. I kept my head down, shelving books and helping customers, but my mind was racing. I needed to talk to Mr. Thornwood again to show him what I'd found. Not just the archive, but the history it held, the legacy I could help revive. But Jasper was everywhere, hovering like a storm cloud. He'd been colder since our last talk, his smiles tighter, his words clipped. When I suggested adding a display of rare books to draw in collectors, he shot it down without a second thought. We're focusing on online campaigns, Evelyn. Physical displays are a waste of space. Mia, trailing behind him, nodded like he'd just dropped some grand wisdom. I bit my tongue, but the frustration burned. They were rewriting the shop's soul, and I was being pushed further into the shadows. That afternoon, I caught Mr. Thornwood alone in his office. I found something, I said, closing the door behind me. Something important. I pulled out the ledger and opened it to Evelyn Harlow's entries, explaining the hidden room, her role in the shop's past, and her dismissal. His eyes widened as he scanned the pages, fingers tracing the faded ink. "This is remarkable," he murmured. "I had no idea this room existed. My grandfather never mentioned it." "There's more," I said, handing him her letter. She was let go for trying to innovate, for pushing the shop forward. "Doesn't that sound familiar?" He read the letter, his face tightening. "Evelyn, I see what you're getting at, but things are different now. We're not dismissing you. Aren't you?" I pressed, my voice steady but sharp. I've given this place everything, and now I'm being sidelined for ideas that don't even respect what makes the shop special. Let me use this history, create events around these old books, draw in people who care about the past. It'll set us apart. He leaned back, rubbing his chin. It's a lot to consider. Jasper's got his own vision, and it's working. But I'll think about it. Bring me a proposal and we'll talk. It wasn't a yes, but it was a crack in the door. I left his office feeling a flicker of hope, but as I passed the storage room, the whisper returned, low and urgent. Hurry. My skin prickled. Hurry?
Why?
That night, I stayed late, drafting a proposal in the shop's quiet. I outlined a series of events, readings, exhibits, even workshops on book restoration, using the archive's treasures to draw crowds. I poured everything into it, my heart racing with possibility. This was my chance to show I wasn't just reliable but vital. But as I worked, I heard footsteps outside the office. The shop was supposed to be empty. I froze, listening. A faint creak, then silence. My pulse quickened. I stepped into the hall, the air thick and heavy, and saw a shadow flicker near the storage room. Hello. I called, my voice echoing. No answer. I crept toward the room, heart pounding. The door was ajar, though I'd locked it that morning. I pushed it open, and there, in the dim light, was Jasper, crouched by the hidden door, a flashlight in one hand, a notebook in the other. What are you doing? I demanded, stepping inside. He jolted, nearly dropping the flashlight. Evelyn, I was just checking inventory. In a secret room you didn't know existed? I crossed my arms, my voice sharp. What's in the notebook? He hesitated, then sighed, flipping it open. Pages of notes, titles, dates, values. These books are worth a fortune, he said, almost defensively. I found out about the archive from Dad. I'm cataloging them to sell online. It's a gold mine. My stomach dropped. Sell them? These aren't just books. They're the shop's history. You can't just auction off its soul. It's business, Evelyn, he snapped. You're so stuck in the past, you don't see it. This place needs cash, not nostalgia. I stared at him, fury rising. He wasn't just taking my place. He was dismantling everything I'd fought for. You're making a mistake, I said, my voice low. This shop is more than money. He scoffed and brushed past me, leaving me alone in the dark. The whisper came again, softer now. Choose. Choose what? Stay and fight a losing battle, or walk away from the only life I'd known. I locked the hidden door and went home. My mind a storm. Jasper's plan would gut the shop, turn it into something cold and hollow. But if I stayed, I'd have to confront him and Mr. Thornwood, who'd let this happen. The other Evelyn's story loomed large. She'd fought and lost. Would I? The next day, I handed Mr. Thornwood my proposal, but I added something new, a warning about Jasper's plan. He's going to sell off the archive, I said. It'll destroy what makes this place special. You have to decide what the shop stands for. His face paled. He didn't tell me that. I'll talk to him, Evelyn. Thank you. But as I left his office, I saw Jasper watching from across the shop, his eyes narrow. I'd drawn a line, and there was no going back. That night, I dreamt of the hidden room, of Evelyn Harlow standing beside me, her face calm but fierce. Break the chain, she said, her voice blending with the whisper. I woke with the start, my heart racing. I knew what I had to do. Loyalty had chained me to a place that no longer saw me, but it had also given me strength, the strength to fight, to create, to choose my own path. I wasn't ready to leave yet, but I was ready to change the game. Tomorrow I'd face Jasper and Mr. Thornwood. I'd show them what I was worth, or I'd walk away and build something new. Either way, the chain was breaking. I used to think that loyalty was a straight line, a path you walked without question, trusting it would lead you somewhere safe. But after everything I'd been through at Thornwood Pages, I realized it's more like a maze, full of twists and dead ends, and sometimes you have to step off the path entirely to find your way. That's what I was facing now, A choice between staying on a road that no longer felt like mine or forging a new one, even if it meant leaving everything behind. The morning after my confrontation with Jasper, the shop felt different, charged, like the air before a storm. I barely slept, my mind racing with what-ifs and half-formed plans. I knew today would decide everything, but I wasn't sure what that everything would look like. All I knew was that I couldn't keep being a ghost in my own life. I arrived early, slipping into the hidden room one last time. The whisper was silent now, but Evelyn Harlow's letter lay on the desk where I'd left it, a quiet reminder of the choice she'd made, and the one I had to make. I tucked it into my pocket, a talisman of sorts, and went to find Mr. Thornwood. He was in his office, staring out the window, his face drawn. "Evelyn," he said, turning as I entered. I spoke to Jasper. He admitted to planning to sell the archive. I didn't know. I nodded, my throat tight. "What are you going to do about it?" He sighed, rubbing his temples. "I don't know. He's my son, and he's got ideas, modern ideas. But you're right. This shop has a soul, and I don't want to lose that. Maybe there's a way to balance both." Balance. I echoed, frustration creeping in. Jasper doesn't want balance. He wants to gut this place for profit. And you're letting him. His eyes flashed with something, regret, maybe, or resignation. "I'm trying to keep this shop alive, Evelyn. It's not as simple as you think." I took a breath, steadying myself. "I've given you a proposal. I've shown you what I can do. But if you're not willing to stand up for what this place is, then maybe it's time for me to go." The words hung in the air, heavy and final. I hadn't planned to say them, but as soon as they left my mouth, I knew they were true. I couldn't stay if it meant watching the shop and myself fade away. Mr. Thornwood's face softened. "Evelyn, you've been the heart of this place for years. I don't want to lose you, but I can't promise things will change overnight. Give me time." Time. The one thing I'd given plenty of, and what had it gotten me? A pat on the back and a front row seat to my own erasure. I shook my head. "I've given you 20 years. I think that's enough." He looked stricken, but before he could respond, the office door swung open. Jasper stormed in, his face flushed with anger. "What the hell, Evelyn? You went behind my back to Dad." I stood my ground. "You were going behind everyone's back, Jasper. Selling off the archive without telling anyone. That's not innovation. It's betrayal." "Betrayal," he spat. "This shop's bleeding money, and you're clinging to dusty books like they're gold. Wake up, Evelyn. Loyalty doesn't pay the bills." "Maybe not," I said, my voice calm despite the storm inside me. "But it builds something worth more than money. And if you can't see that, you'll lose everything that makes this place special." He scoffed, turning to his father. "Dad, are you seriously listening to this? She's living in the past. We need to move forward." Mr. Thornwood looked between us, his face a mask of conflict. "Jasper, Evelyn's right about one thing. We can't just sell off our history. But we do need to adapt. Maybe there's a middle ground." Jasper's jaw tightened. "There is no middle ground. It's evolve or die." I watched them, father and son, locked in a battle I'd somehow become the center of. But as they argued, something shifted inside me. This wasn't my fight anymore. I'd spent years trying to prove my worth, to make them see me, but maybe the real lesson was that I didn't need their validation. I needed my own. Quietly, I slipped out of the office, leaving them to their debate. I walked through the shop, past the shelves I'd organized 1,000 times, past the counter where I'd greeted countless customers, past the storage room where the whisper had first called to me. I didn't stop until I reached the front door, where I paused, taking one last look. The whisper came again, soft and clear. "You're free." I smiled, a weight lifting from my shoulders. Yes, I was. Outside, the air was crisp, the city alive with possibility. I didn't know what came next. Maybe I'd start my own bookshop, or consult for others, or even write about the hidden histories I'd uncovered. But whatever it was, it would be mine, built on my terms. As I walked away, I thought of Evelyn Harlow, the woman who'd walked this path before me. She'd been erased, but I wouldn't be. I'd learned from her story, from the whisper in the walls, from the chain I'd finally broken. Loyalty, I realized, isn't about staying, it's about knowing when to leave. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is step into the unknown, trusting that you'll find your way.